Okay, I'm going to post another brief video about my supermono project. Can't recall how far I got the last one, so I'll keep it quick. This is a second ZX10R seat hump that I got. It was in pretty rough shape, so I just spray bombed it white and then clear coated it. You got my race numbers on there, and it's got a nice little foam pad there. So that's basically the seat itself. I'm not sure if I'm going to put any of the electrical stuff underneath the hump. There's certainly enough room, but I found too with the design of this bike there's plenty of room for things like the CDI, regulator, rectifier, that sort of thing towards the front, so that might be a better spot for it. A couple other things that I got done since I last posted. I had a really long 20mm axle that I used. I got my machinist to cut it down to 18mm and then thread it for a fine pitch thread. I think it's 1.25. So this is a Triumph 675 nut on the end, so it's a nice metal lock nut. I cut it off flush, and so what we've got there is it kind of looks proper. It doesn't have a big cotter pin through there or anything like that, so it's not going to loosen up, and I'm kind of happy with how that turned out. Something as simple as a nut sometimes can really finish off a project. This is the Hindle tie exhaust. Still haven't got the adapter piece yet, so when that's in I'll take it down to a buddy of mine who does excellent work TIG welding, and he'll connect the front headers there with the 2-in-1 collector and an adapter up to the 2-inch ID on the pipe. So that'll be some interesting cutting and shutting, but I've got some mandrel bent tubes that should hopefully help. Towards the front, not a big deal, but I got my little number plate mounted here. I've got quarter turn fasteners there now. These are D-ring. I've got some ones that just use an Allen bolt, so I might switch those out with those, although these look kind of cool in terms of proper race setup. This you can see here, it's not a hydraulic clutch. This connects to my little homemade rear brake master cylinder that I'm going to operate as a thumb brake. So kind of takes a bit to explain, but what we've got here, this is a Brembo rear master cylinder from like a 80s Moto Guzzi. The reason why I chose that is it has a pivot piece built into the master cylinder itself. So it normally has just this little piece right here that comes out and then connects to a push rod, if I understand correctly. So I just had some aluminum bracketry, and I think this is from an old Woodcraft rear set that I've bolted to it. I threaded some pieces there, so it threads right in, and then a lock nut on the end, and then a little bit of aluminum, I guess stud or piece here with some rubber around it, and so you just push it like that. Again, with stuff like this, I have to hook the whole thing up before I see if it actually works. But there's a bit of a throw there, so it's got some good movement, and it's a pretty big bore, so it may end up, feeling a bit wooden, but I don't hardly use the rear brake anyway. But this is a pretty massive brake bore connected to a little dirt bike rear caliper, so I'm sure it'll, like even with this much travel, I'm going to get proper brake pressure at the rear, and should be plenty powerful. So how this is all clamped to the fork is that these R6 forks have a 43mm tube size. So this is a ProTech fork clamp that's used for everything from mounting headlights to steering dampers. So that's mounted on there. And then towards the front I've got a little aluminum bracket that I just had lying around, and I got the proper size bits. So I think this takes like a 4.8mm drill bit, and then I tapped it so that these M6 fine thread bolts thread right in, and then on the other side it's tapped for M8 bolts here, and it's just doubled up, and I used red Loctite so it's not going to go anywhere. I had to cut this by hand and then file it till it was flat, but for what it's worth, I really don't think this is going to go anywhere. It is a bit clunky looking, but all in, see, the clamp was about 35 bucks. The Brembo master cylinder was 100. I had some Tyvek tubing laying around, and the reservoir. I do need to get about a 60-inch rear brake hose, but considering thumb brakes are around $3.99 to $4.25, without the master cylinder. If this thing works, you know, it's kind of my homemade jobby, but I'm hoping that it'll work fairly well. I guess the last thing is the front, or I guess the oil tank. This is from an SZR 660, so I did get one come in from eBay Germany. It's complete, came with some hoses. There's a hose that goes from here down to the bottom part. So I think that's a return or the feed, I can't remember. But anyway, that connects to that. However, the way I have this mounted here, this is just like about a 1/16 of an inch too short. And I had a spare one of these lying around, so I did cut off this hose. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to lengthen this. The ID of this hose, I believe, is 10 millimeters. So it's not really, it's not 3/8. 3/8 is too small, 1/2 is too big. So I might have to find some European-sized oil hose. Or another option is there's a place that sells a stainless steel oil hose that has the proper, I guess, bracketry right there, and then with a loose end here, so then I could, you know, this is a 12 millimeter, so I could get some proper AN fittings here and put it all together correctly. So we'll see, but you know, with something like this, it's got to be done right, or you might as well not do it at all. And the last bit here for this is something I learned from the XT and the TT forums. This is EX250 carburetors. Pair of those. They bolt or mount right into the intake boots there. And then I looked up cross-reference part numbers, and this is a K&N pod filter. When it says for an EX250, it's about $100. But when you find the right part number, they'll sell it to you for about 40. So I was able to get that off eBay as well. And yeah, that's as far as we've got so far. So still waiting on a few other parts, but yeah, we'll keep plugging away at this.